Just
Hi,
admitting a lot of
everybody.
people here. Hi, Vladimir, Ryan, everyone. Welcome. Let's just allow a couple of minutes for people to join. I'm very glad you could all make it. Jumping right in.
Yeah, I came prepared. I
Yes.
came ready. I came ready.
Cool.
Let me just
I love the handshake.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good fun.
Hmm.
I think if I put the link in the chat, everyone can see it. It should be. I'll check the sharing settings as well. Yeah, okay, anyone with the link, great. Yeah, so I just have a few slides. Well, I say a few, a decent chunk of slides, but I think it's quite useful to help narrow the discussions down, and it's good for reference. Yeah.
Okay, maybe what we could do while people join is I thought maybe we could use the raise hand feature this time, since we're like becoming more and more, and maybe let's jump in and introduce ourselves just by saying who we are, what we do, at what organization. If you want to see the queue, you just need to click the show everyone button to see who's raised hands. Anyway, from my side, my name is Lucas. I am a technical business analyst working with Maestro, and I've been with CBIA for quite a while. Not sure if this is going to work. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. So I am Jide Fashola. I'm Global Financial Infrastructure Lead in Cardano Foundation. So I basically look after exchange operations for Cardano Foundation. Pleasure to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
I guess I can go. I've got the presentation. Hi, yeah, I'm Ryan. I'm working as a tech lead at Intersect at the moment, but more importantly for today, I help run the Wallets Working Group, and that's what I'll be talking about today.
I'll jump in.
I'll go. Okay. I'm Tyler. I work with Amargo FinTech, which is sort of the part of Amargo that manages Yodori Wallet. I'm the strategy and growth manager there. Just wanted to come in here and check out what's going on and just be aware of everything that's happening here.
I can go next. I'm Santiago from TXPipe, software developer. We build open source tools in the Cardano ecosystem.
I'm Vladimir. I work at MLabs, and we received a grant to improve the wallet infrastructure situation from Catalyst. And as part of that grant, I'm working on developing CIPs that specify the APIs for the wallet interfaces and the query layer interfaces.
I'll go next. I'm Marvin. I'm the CEO of Maestro. So Maestro is a dApp development platform for Cardano. So we offer advanced APIs and developer tools for builders to build dApps on the Cardano blockchain.
I'll go. I'm Aurora, the lead developer and co-founder at Blink Labs. We're writing software for the ecosystem in the Go programming language.
Can you hear me?
Hi guys, this is Michael. I am from the Koyos. Sorry, Marcus, to intercept.
Go ahead.
I am one of the core members of the Koyos API services, and that's it.
Right. I'm Marcus. I'm working totally independently on the Mafok chain indexer. Yeah, that's it.
I think we have nearly everyone. Last round, anyone? Okay, I'm sorry I nicked the screen share again back to myself, but I just wanted to take a moment as well to introduce CBIA, and I would like to invite maybe Marvin to introduce a bit what we do, very in a 1-minute pitch.
Yeah, sure. I'll give a quick intro. So the CBIA, the Cardano Blockchain Infrastructure Alliance, is a members-based organization forming of some of the top kind of infra providers and builders on the Cardano blockchain. The goal is to foster the growth of the Cardano ecosystem for developers as we mature, make it easier to empower developers to build on Cardano blockchain, make it easy to onboard new developers into our ecosystem. And most of us in this organization are developers, often contributors to open source tooling. And so it's a great place for us, like today, to discuss about standards and how we can create, more collaboration and standardization of the developer ecosystem overall. So yeah, if you're interested to learn more, you can check out our Twitter, and you can even join and apply to join the organization. And yeah, look forward to the discussion today.
Thank you. Yeah, jumping in, like I mentioned, the goal today is just to align with the Wallets Working Group. We have Ryan and Vladimir presenting, and yeah, there's not much to say here, really just the core presentation. They're going to be very happy to take the lead. We have a number of relevant organizations here to discuss, so let's jump right in. I'm going to stop presenting and pass the ball to Ryan.
Yeah,
Cheers.
sure. I'll just put my presentation in the chat as well. So
thank you.
If there's links in it or whatever, please feel free to jump to that. So yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you, Lucas, for this opportunity. Today, I've called this CBIA Wallets Working Group introduction. It's more of a like, hello, what are we doing over in the Wallets Working Group? What we're working on, and what we think could be or should be relevant to yourselves over here as CBIA. I have quite a few slides here. The first, maybe third of them is just going to be me introducing the working group, introducing myself, introducing Vladimir, and then the latter, yeah, two thirds will be more discussion. And I want to really hear people's opinions, and I think people will have some good insights that I want to note down. And yeah, cool. So a quick introduction. I think we've already done this, but who are we? I'm Ryan. Yeah, tech lead at Intersect. I've been in Cardano crypto for 2 years now. Just over 2 years, I joined IOG as a consultant. So through a third-party agency, I worked there on various things for 2 years, and now at the start of this year, I moved over to Intersect. Additionally, you know, some around, I'm a SIP editor as well, so I've been doing that now for about 1 year, and I've been interested in wallets and wallet-related things as I was going through IOG, and then as a SIP editor now, there's a lot of wallet SIPs. It's about, I don't know, maybe about a third of them. So it's just an area that I've been interested in. Yeah, Vladimir, do you mind introducing yourself for just a quick 1 minute?
Sure. I'm Vladimir from MLabs, and for the last 2 years, I have been working with off-chain stuff. Most probably, you know me as the developer and the tech lead of Cardano Transaction Library. It's a pure script Swiss knife for Cardano off-chain tooling. And this grant that I talked about earlier, it was motivated by the problems we observed in the wallet and in general off-chain situation on Cardano, and it encompasses all our proposals to improve it. So you can think of me as a representative of MLabs and our developers.
That's amazing, thank you. And that brings me on, what is the Wallets Working Group? What's the origin? How did we start? So it kind of started around, I believe, November of last year, maybe the end of October. It kind of culminated, there's been, historically, there's been lots of SIP30 related issues. I'm sure people are familiar with SIP30, the standard wallet dApp connector, which is an API which specifies how wallets and dApps can talk to each other. In the SIP repository, in my experience, I think 2/3, 3/4 of the issues there are SIP30 related. So for a while, I've been thinking about how we can move past SIP30 as an ecosystem, and I started drafting a Cardano problem statement on that. And Cardano problem statements are very similar to SIPs, except Cardano problem statements are just focusing on the problem, trying to encapsulate the problem, what a solution could look like, whereas a SIP is just describing a solution. So I started drafting that, and around a similar time, there was a kind of renewed interest in SIP30 and SIP30 extensions. So think like SIP90, SIP95, 103, 104, multisig, and then this extensive connector PR from Vladimir. And around this time, Vladimir kicked off a Discord channel and tried to have some conversations about how MLabs, through this Catalyst grant, were looking to improve SIP30. So it kind of worked out that it was a good time to start talking about replacing SIP30, start working on wallet connectors. I was inspired partly by the workshops Pi was running. So Pi ran a few governance metadata workshops, which were just online calls similar to this, where it's just, he'll present an idea and then people, what they like, what they don't like, it changes around. And I thought it was a really good way to get community insight on a topic. So I was inspired by that, and myself, Vladimir, and Adam Dean joined forces to create the Wallets Working Group and start running these calls. These calls were initially focused around wallet connectors, so wallet connector workshops. Basically, what are the problems we all have with SIP30, what people don't like, what people like. And I think they were broadly very successful, and I was really pleased with how they went. I think we found a passionate and very knowledgeable group, and I thought it made sense to really formalize this and keep this group together to address things beyond wallet connectors. So I wanted to formalize it into a working group and just be able to bring additional topics, so other wallet related concerns. We could discuss those with a similar group. So that's the origin. So where are we now? We now formalize into a more Intersect related working group. So we now meet on a nice regular cadence, 2-ish weeks, depending on scheduling. Normally every 2 weeks. Calls are open. It's not just that initial interested parties. It's anyone who's interested, anyone who has any stake in, any stakeholders of wallets, essentially. So we have, people who make dApps or people who make off-chain tooling, anything like this. Everyone's welcome, and we encourage everyone to attend if they have time. We have a large backlog, or we have a backlog of issues or problems that we have that we'd like to talk about and like to address. Obviously, we have the Wallets Connect one is our first one. Then our second one is the query layer standardization, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And we split these into, I've called them initiatives. They're like a big chunk of work, a big problem that needs to be solved. So Wallets Connector, query layer, but they can have smaller things, and we've got a list of things. Just in this slide, we have a light terms of reference. We have meeting invites. We have a shared Google Drive where all the slides, all the transcripts, all recordings are all shared, similar to how CBIA operates. We also have a Discord channel, still based in the SIPs Discord. Maybe I should talk about when Intersect came into the picture. So obviously Intersect is very new. It really only kicked off really the start of this year, although the end of last year, the wheels are turning. With Intersect, there's this idea of product working groups. So the idea is, is specific groups of people who care about specific product-related things. So obviously, wallets for us, and from these working groups, the idea is we can develop things that the ecosystem or the Cardano budget needs to be paid to do, or how the working group produces an idea, it can then go up to a committee, and then the committee can decide, hey, let's fund a fix for this idea, or let's fund a full node wallet, or anything like this. So we're trying to integrate this, and this is kind of where we're moving to. So at the moment, we're kind of more focused on these big problems we're working to solve, me and Vladimir, but we also want to start taking product ownership for wallets in general. Yeah, so other questions like, do we want to fund them as an ecosystem, as wallets people? Do we care about full name wallets? Do we want to encourage their development? Similarly, do we want to pay for or encourage more open source wallets? Maybe this is something people care about, and the Wallets Working Group could be the place where these discussions should go, and then these discussions can move up, and we can look at splitting up budgets to pay for that sort of stuff. I think this is the intro and where we are now. Vladimir, is there anything you'd like to add? Have I covered everything all right? Any questions as well from anyone?
I think the important motivation that is emitted here is the motivation for the users. Basically, as for now, there isn't a standard like Ethereum's 1193, which is basically RPCs that allow to reusing different data providers between wallets, like in MetaMask. So the main user-facing problem that I would like to solve on Cardano is inability for the end users to connect the wallets to their own backend infrastructure.
Yeah, I've noted that down, and I think I have that. Should be covered, yeah, a little further down. Okay, great. So we have the Wallets Connect initiative. That's really how the working group started and how we got this group of people together. And then we're now more recently working on, in the last few months, the query layer initiative, or query layer standardization initiative, how you'd like to call it. So let me just intro this. So what do we mean by query layer? Obviously, I think we all know blockchains themselves are quite bad databases. Storage is expensive and indexing is difficult. Data query layers provide a solution to this for people who are building tools. So you can fetch blockchain data with a nice accessible API. Obviously, I think we have some representatives from the group here who are associated with these. So obviously in Cardano, we have a few commercial offerings. But also, you got to bear in mind that also tools build their own, and it's all often built into backends of different wallets or different dApps or anything like this. Why do we have so many? Why do we have multiple in Cardano compared to, like Vladimir said, like Ethereum? Cardano nodes, we obviously can't query. We can't arbitrarily query data similar to other chains do. I think Ethereum lets you do that as such. So this is kind of results in necessity for these sorts of providers, these sorts of layers to exist. And also, it's a competitive. Different providers have their niches, have their strengths, have their weaknesses, and one provider is great for one application, one great for another. So why do the Wallets Working Group care about this? Why am I presenting this? Why is this an initiative from us? So we hit this initiative while we were working on the wallet connectors. As wallet connectors largely are a way for dApps to access a wallet's data layer. So for example, a dApp will ask a wallet, hey, what's your addresses? What are your UTXOs? And essentially that wallet's doing is using its data layer or its query layer to, what are its UTXOs? And then it passes that information back to the dApp. So they are like naturally linked together. I put naturally, maybe naturally is not right. They're just linked together. They're often very tightly coupled and very similar. So like you think about like SIP30, the design of SIP30 has influenced the needs of existing query layers. If SIP30 was different and had some different endpoints, then you'd probably result in different needs for query layers with different endpoints. So I think they are quite linked together. And when we're thinking about a next generation of wallet connectors, so replacing SIP30, I think it's also would be really useful to have a standardized query layer, as it will make implementation for wallets easier. Okay. the motivation here isn't, we don't want to force anyone. We cannot and would not, force anyone to upgrade to the standard, or sorry, to align with the standard. I shouldn't say upgrade. We could not or would not do that for providers, so query layer providers, or consumers. So yeah, wallets, dApps, middleware, tooling. We can't force that, and we wouldn't want to. That's certainly not the intention. Again, this is all based on Cardano improvement proposals. So it's a proposal. You don't have to adopt it, but it's a proposal. Yeah, is that a sufficient intro, Vladimir? Or have I missed anything out? I touched on the motivations next.
Yeah, thank you for this great intro.
Perfect, cool. So I tried to. I've got this diagram here, which is very simplistic. Very.
Let me just make a pause to make sure that does anyone from the forum have any questions for Ryan for now in terms of motivations, what they've discussed so far before we go deeper in the technical side?
No questions. I must be doing a good job. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cool. So this is kind of what our query layer initiative looks like. I don't know. Maybe this diagram's useful to people. I find it useful. Basically, we've been writing a lot of SIPs and a lot of CPS as well, mainly Vladimir. So along the bottom here in blue, we have the blockchain. We have data providers sitting above that, and then they go through a data layer standard, a query layer standard, which is what we're working on at the moment. We've defined the CPS 12, which is defining the problem around this. So like why we want a standardized query layer. What are the issues of not having one, which I'll talk about next. And then wallets use this, dApps use this. Other people also use this, but that's not shown in this diagram because it's not a great diagram. The other points to mention is along the top we have the wallet connectors. So wallets, dApps, how they talk to each other. There'll be a standard there, not super relevant. The only other relevant part is this JSON representation over at the side. So the way we're looking at the moment is the query layer standard will use the JSON representation standard. So Vladimir's been working very hard on CPS 11 and CPS 116, SIP 116, which defines JSON encoding for all Cardano domain types, which is a really useful thing to have, and won't just be useful for query layers, but also useful throughout the ecosystem. So essentially what this is we have CBOR representations for all the standard Cardano data structures. That's cool, but CBOR's not super useful when you're making dApps or in web development mode. CBOR is kind of hard to read and work with. So having a JSON version of that will be super useful, and it should also probably be used by the query layer standard. So when you ask the query layer for specific data, it will return it in a JSON shape. I think that's covered that. Okay, so why are we doing this? What's the motivation? What problems are we solving by making this green layer in the middle? So I've written a few here, but I'm pleased to hear. I'd be keen to hear more points from the audience. I think there's three main points I have. Firstly, duplication of effort. By having competing standards, so by each data provider having their own APIs and it all looking differently, data in different shapes, we end up having to implement abstraction layers between them to support multiple providers. So if you support, I don't want to pick on providers, but if you want to support multiple providers, you have to have some abstraction, and you just end up duplicating effort, and you have to write these intermediate things which are a bit ugly and not useful. And this can be seen in Mesh, Lucid, and Cardano Transaction Library, which just isn't ideal. Like if everyone used the same standard, if everyone's data came out the same, you wouldn't need this. So it'd be nice not to have that. The other motivation here, I've got tight coupling between wallets and query layers. So essentially, since they're so tightly coupled, we can impose expensive costs on wallets, essentially. So if you have a query layer that's super expensive, wallet has tied themselves to that one query layer because they can't switch between them. It can become very expensive for them to do those requests, and they can't switch between them. There's not a market. It's not easy to switch. I hope that makes sense. And especially this is important if we're writing new wallet connectors and we're making data requests to wallets which are outside of the realm of normal requests. We basically can't do really weird wallet connectors without having really weird and colorful data layers. So locking wallets to provide an increased cost. And this, it discourages innovation in the wallets ecosystem, because wallets, if they're tied to one provider, they're only going to implement a wallet connector which they can use that one provider for. I hope that made sense. I feel like I'm jumping through my words a bit. Additionally, and this is what Vladimir touched on, by allowing, it'd be really cool and really nice feature if you as a wallet user could choose where your data came from. So perhaps you have a Koios key or Koios account already. You can choose, you can switch your wallet to use your data from Koios, or perhaps Koios goes down for whatever reason or whatever. Then you can use your Mastro key and could pass your wallet to use Mastro. I think this is really cool and it would be really nice. I think users would like this. I think obviously more decentralized, you have more options. You can also do, one goes down, you have a fallback. It makes things like supporting custom networks a lot easier. You can just bring whatever data, perhaps you run your own instance of BlockFrost and you can connect your wallet to your instance and it all works happy and it's all good. I think this would be really nice. And you can essentially run your Light wallet and all the data it needs locally, and you can do it all yourself, which is really cool. And this is something you can't really do right now. Did that make sense, Vladimir? Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, that's a perfect summary. Thank you.
Great. I'm on a roll. Is there any questions from the audience on this? This is trying to encapsulate why we, as the Wallets Working Group, as tooling providers, would like to standardize query layers. If not, we can go to the more controversial one, or the more interesting one next, perhaps. So this slide is trying to, in my interpretation, and obviously I'm not a tooling provider. I really don't have too much experience in Cardano, so this is just what I've put down. I'm really keen to hear what other people would like to add to this. I'd really appreciate the diverse opinions on this. So this is, what are the challenges of standardizing query layers? I think, to me, and intuitively to me, this makes sense, the loss of business advantage for query layer providers. Excuse me. So obviously, if you're a commercial data layer provider, you lose the ability to differentiate your service based on the data shape, response type, language, etc., etc. Like if there's one standard, you have to return the data as that standard, right? You can't differentiate it in any way. And this isn't great. This is annoying. I'm sure people wouldn't be super happy about this. For example, some providers, and I don't know who left a comment on CPS 12 about this, but they have a really good comment. I assume it was someone here. Some providers get paid per request, and so they perhaps encourage their requests to encourage more frequent requests, whereas other providers want to minimize the number of requests and so add loads of data into one request at a time. By standardizing the layers, you lose the ability to differentiate yourself like this, which I think is a big negative, and I'd like to hear people's opinions on it. The counter argument, or the other point, I suppose, is would this lead to providers not wanting to conform to a standard, maybe not conform, not wanting to implement. I don't like the word conform. That implies, coercion or something, but that's not the intention at all. The counter argument is, do providers still have enough ability to differentiate themselves and find their own niches, commercially, via stuff like response time, rate limiting, endpoint coverage, and more. So these are the challenges I see at the moment for a query layer standard or query layer standard initiative. I'd be very keen to hear from the group right now what other issues people would have. Hit me.
If I may ask you a couple of questions. First of all, I appreciate really much your initiative, and I think it's very important to set the standard query layer for the whole Cardano ecosystem. I have a couple of ideas in my mind. One is about Charles Hoskinson, that once a few months ago said that he wanted to implement the API directly on the node, and this is a big question mark because I never know what they do in IUG exactly. And the second question that is related is about indexers. If we implement a standard query layer, we should also think about how indexers are indexing the data before we apply the query layer. So how do we cope the standard on query layer on the indexers like DBSync that is not on our hand, or other indexers that are coming out in the market?
These are great questions. Vladimir, do you want to respond?
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't looked much into indexers because I assumed that indexers like Cardano DBSync have literally everything that can be indexed in the database available for querying. So I still believe that this is not something conceptually hard to solve, because we could always build a database schema for any particular set of endpoints we want to support, right?
Yes, but at the same time, each indexer is creating his own tables and his own indexes. So the query layer that is going to extrapolate the data from the tables created by the indexer will be different. The outcome can be standardized with the query layer and with the JSON standards. But for example, we in Koyos, we are using DBSync and we are chasing all IOG changes and reflect those changes in our query layer in order to make it more proficient. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So probably for the standard itself, it's not really important to specify the indexer database schemas or approaches or anything, because it's more like an implementation detail, in my opinion. Yeah, but of course, we will have to consider the existing tooling like Cardano DBSync, what does it allow, and so on, while working on the set of endpoints.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, the point that I would add there is that this query layer standard, you know, it's not going to be written in isolation, right? Like, I think it makes a lot of sense. It'll be a COP, right? Like, there should be public discussion from everyone. Everyone should give their inputs. Like, if everyone uses DBSync, then we can think about what data DBSync offers, and then that could be in the standard. But if everyone uses Cupo or whatever indexer or whatever custom thing, then we should think about that. And I think it's a good point to say that we'd like everyone's input on this. And depending on your implementation, we'd like to scope the layer standard to support as many implementers as possible. Yeah,
I think it's an egg and chicken kind of problem. Until there is a standard, you won't be seeing much tooling, and until you don't see tooling, you might not see much adoption of the standard. So I think that someone will need to make the first step and implement the standard in some sort of tooling that then can be pushing and stressing the rest of the providers to join. That is regarding indexing. I have regarding the challenges, I do think that differentiation on the shape of the data, it's an interesting concern, a complex one. I was wondering if maybe you were thinking of some sort of extensibility schema within the standard that would allow sort of like a GraphQL approach where you can merge different data sets into one specific output, or if maybe the standard is strictly constrained to the core inputs and outputs around wallet integration, and maybe think of data providers as providers that have different endpoints for different concerns, and the core concern is standardized, but maybe some layered approach where you have extra things for specific use cases.
Yeah, thank you for this question. The standard will be a normal CIP, and we already have a couple of other CIPs that build on top of each other as extensions. For example, the ones that extend CIP 30. So I think that we could simply utilize the existing approaches of the CIP repo for the extensions. That is, the extensions will have to be separate CIPs.
I'll keep going with some other questions. Do we have anybody from BlockFrost in the call, or do we know if maybe BlockFrost, since now it's my understanding part of IOG, maybe it's a good first candidate for the for implementing the first version of this in some indexing and provider solution?
I don't think we have anyone here, but I have been in contact with Max from BlockFrost. Now he's at IG, and he's aware of this, but we haven't talked about any plans to implement or any first steps or anything like that. It's just more of a, hey, we're working on this. Would you like to contribute? You know, we'd appreciate your insights. We haven't, but there's definitely, yeah, I definitely should continue the conversation with them.
And last, I promise. Hard forks are tough with standards. They don't play well together. Do you have any strategy on how to deal with never-ending changes on the domain and on the interfaces of the standard? Because that's, I'm just curious about how to tackle that problem.
Yeah, that's a good question. So for the first CIP that is now in review, we have established an approach of simply specifying different schema files for different eras. So essentially, the standard will be altered, but in a manner that only allows additions. For example, here we have a specification for beverage, probably still incomplete, but that's the way I think it should be organized. And the HTTP APIs or whatever we are going to define can also be versioned in a similar manner.
Okay, so having branching at the endpoint level, you will have endpoints for one to talk to the layer using a specific schema from a specific era, and then a different B whatever for talking in another schema. That's, did I understand that?
Yes, but admittedly there are a few problems with that, namely the metadata encoding that is different between eras. We have legacy formats for metadata that are even reflected in the CDDL specifications. So this is really something we need to take care of.
Would we also need schemas for past eras? Oh no, it's only ever the current era.
I think that we will have to invent something specifically for the metadata. This is kind of a special case, but other than that, it looks like the way the blockchain used to be modified was only additions. And actually, for the governance sections that replace some older machinery for withdrawals from the treasury, we have some removals as well. So in the Conway data layer, we will see new constructs that replace the old ones. And in my opinion, for the query layers, at least as long as the wallets are concerned, this is not super important, because once we switch to Conway, the old actions, on-chain actions with withdrawals will become irrelevant. I believe that there is not much value in providing the legacy data layer.
But so you mean, so for example, going back to the treasury withdrawals you mentioned here, so for Conway, MIR certificates, which was like the old way of doing a treasury withdrawal, will be replaced with governance action treasury withdrawals in Conway. Are you saying that there'd be no need, or there'd be no want to ever query past MIR? You know, in the query layer, there'd be no want to have a get past MIRs. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, of course, someone may want to have that, but at least for the wallets, I don't see how it could be useful.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was just trying to be, trying to find an edge case.
This is just my opinion. I'm not asserting it or anything. Of course, we will have to. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, just wanted to say that dealing with similar problems, I reached the conclusion that you have to choose between one of two approaches. One is you follow the CTTL and the ledger structure to the point, and you have era-based schemas, and you let the consumer deal with some sort of branching mechanism to decide how to understand the data that is coming out from the layer. And the other way is you try to create an abstraction that is sort of like a superset of all the features that the ledger has into one cohesive schema that hopefully doesn't have many breaking changes in the future, but it allows the consumer to treat everything as a single era. But I think that it's either one of the two approaches, going with a hybrid approach where you have era specific on some parts of the schema, but a new abstraction on others. That's where it gets complex very fast. At least that's my subjective experience.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I will write that down in the comment for the CPS. Thank you.
Yeah, that's super good. Does anyone have any other questions? I can go back to this slide.
I'm curious to listen maybe to Marcus or Marvin, anyone more from the data side that we have any questions or remarks so far.
Not from my side.
Okay. From my side, I have just two remarks, actually. Well, first one is that we have 15 minutes. Apart from that, after that, we're going to be shut off. And yeah, just looking at my screen here, I want to point out that preserving the provider's specificities, and from the work that I do at Maestro with Marvin and the team, it does add value. So what we're constantly trying to do is find out how we can better chew up data and provide it in a faster way. To what you mentioned just there around having more in each call or having more calls with smaller chunks of data, we've been adding some endpoints that take a whole array of things instead of you having to query it tens of times. So we're always trying to optimize that, sometimes even like too much, where customers ask us to include the world in one endpoint. And so I just really want to point out that that's where it's not just a matter of the commercial side, it's where we add value, where we innovate and provide. And as we usually pitch it, it does bring new features to whoever chooses to use Maestro in this case, right? So this brings me exactly to what I mentioned even to Ryan in preparation for this call, because what that is, by driving providers to have the same standard, you're actually standardizing the problems that they're going to have in-house, and uniforming a lot of things that what that builders could do. You're sort of like fitting all that through the same mold. So this is just the starting point of what I wanted to point out. And then to the chicken and egg problem that Santiago was pointing out, yeah, probably do agree that we should eventually get started on something. Obviously, you guys are putting that into focus, but I'm also conscious because we've recently implemented a provider for mesh, and Ryan pointed out other libraries that are already doing this type of uniformization work. So could that be, you mentioned, for example, BlockFrost. BlockFrost, as far as I know, is just another provider. And so we could leverage maybe something like Mesh or other libraries that already have a code base that is drinking from all the providers. And that brings me to my other remark, which is, could this unified layer be sort of like an interim provider? So something that actually a bit like Mesh, but server-side, drinks from all other providers and provides a unified data structures for whoever chooses to use that standard. So that way, that builders could drink from that or come directly to the source, meaning the current API providers. So I think that's what I wanted to point out. Cheers. Any thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Regarding the first part, well, the standard itself could be iterated upon. So the advantage would be that instead of competing innovation on different aspects of the query layers, it could be moved to a model where different parties cooperate to build up a better service, and then compete on the quality of the service itself. Because as you described, it looks like every other provider is probably doing the same, right? So that's duplicated work.
Well, but you see, like, even in the way that we do it in the back end, it's drastically different, right? So we can have the same type of endpoint from different providers giving you the same type of data, but internally they did completely different pipelines, and so the quality, the speed of that data, or even how close to the tip it is going to vary. So, and that's another thing, having all the forks and on all that, the rollbacks and all that. You can standardize the content, the shape of the JSON, but in terms of keeping in touch with what really is in the end of the blockchain, is something that could be subjective from provider to provider.
Right. That's because that is a part of the implementation. but you also mentioned the improvements, I mean, the potential improvements that could be made on the standard level, like batching, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could just write down the requirements for the standard in a way that takes everything like batching into account.
Okay.
And regarding the second part about, if I'm not mistaken, you think of something like adapters that translate existing query layer providers into these hypothetical new standards, into the format of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because it may be cheaper to implement than doing it from zero, starting from the indexer. But probably we will have to deal with some
blind spots. Yeah.
With some blind spots that are not covered by existing query layer providers. And I think that most probably writing a new kind of indexer and a new kind of database schema is unavoidable, because probably what we are talking about is an amount of API scope that is probably exceeding what Blockfrost has to offer, for example.
Well, I mean, this is where we could use the extensibility, right? Like we could start with a core offering that everyone has, sorry, that all providers already provide, and then the standard could be extended with the full functionality which we desire. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So right now there is no clear vision of what should be included into the standard. Like, do we want batching, for example? In my opinion, the answer is yes, but this is still to be discussed. So I invite you to comment on the CPS and join the discussion on Discord in the SAP editors server.
Cool, great. I put those links in the chat. I think maybe we have too long now, 5 minutes left. I think maybe one point that I didn't mention, that more of a general what one to talk about. Let me zoom out. Are people generally friendly to this idea? Are people generally adverse to this idea? Do people see this as something that really is worth pursuing, or do perhaps people? Perhaps this group agrees that maybe users and consumers of these APIs are happy with the current landscape, and this standardization effort may just not be useful for anyone. I'd be interested to hear, or maybe see a thumbs up, thumbs down on the reactions, if this is something people generally think is a good idea or generally think is a bad idea. Please comment and jump in. Yeah, it's 1 thumbs up. Thank you, Michael. 2 thumbs up. Okay, great. That's good. I appreciate that. That's just something. I appreciate that because it's good to know. Okay, cool. I mean, we have 5 minutes left. I think we've covered a lot today, and I've written a lot of notes, and I really appreciate the opportunity for this, Lucas. I think this has been super valuable for myself, for Vladimir, and I hope this has been valuable for yourselves as well.
Yep.
Yeah, any final comments or anything?
Really interesting. I think the main goal was that we get to know a bit what you're doing, where you're coming from, your motivations, and also I was turning now to try to find actionables, try to find ways that we can actively help, and so I'll take a look at your Discord. You can take a look at, we already have a channel on CBIA with partners. And so don't hesitate to jump on there and ask for anything, any feedback, anything that you want reviewed, or any call that you want to invite us to be on. By the way, there is the next Wallets Working Group call is going to be tomorrow, exactly 24 hours after the time this one started. I'm going to try to be on it, and from our side, let us know if you need anything. To what you were just saying, it feels like maybe I'm biased because we are running a survey at Maestro right now, but it feels like maybe you could put something out there to try to gauge that demand or feedback. I did try to reach some wallet builders, just specifically one today, but it was too short notice for him. I'm going to share it with him, and yeah, that's what we're going to try to do here. So this video is going to go on YouTube. We invite everyone watching us now or asynchronously on YouTube to go to cbia.io, and through the footer links, follow us wherever you prefer, and get in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.